from that glove that might lead them to a suspect. So really what has been going on since that video came out is lots of tips. 4,000 tips in a day came in after that. And investigators are just going over old ground. Now that they know what they're looking for maybe that backpack, the gloves, the ski mask, they're searching again. And we've also heard that they've been searching again at Annie Guthrie's house around there. Annie Guthrie is of course, Nancy's daughter. Nancy was there for dinner the night before she disappeared, and one neighbor there said, yeah, you know, the FBI came around about a week ago just canvassing. They came back and they asked me if they could look around the outside the back of my property, the bit of his property that butts on to Annie Guthrie's property. So basically that video has supercharged this investigation, has given investigators something to go on. They are searching, but still we don't have a name of any suspect. Alex?
Yeah, and that one of the tips after that video led them to that potential person that they were interested in last night, who they detained and then they released. So sometimes some of these tips are good, and sometimes some of these tips are not as good.
Well, and Alex, what was amazing about that is that guy Carlos told us that his mother-in-law had spoken to investigators and said, you know, why did you pick up Carlos? Why did you detain him? Apparently there had been an anonymous tip that the eyes and eyelashes looked like Carlos. This person called in and said, yeah, the eyes and eyelashes look like this guy Carlos. That's why he got picked up. That's why he was questioned for hours. His car searched, his home searched. He was let go. He says he has nothing to do with it. He said, I hope they find the lady. I hope they find the guy that did it. It's not me.
Meanwhile, you mentioned a backpack. There's focus on a backpack. Why is that significant?
Well, listen, there is focus on anything that might help identify this person from that video. So the clothing, obviously, also the mannerisms, the gait, anything that might lead investigators to this suspect. And obviously, you know, tracking down, okay, where did he buy that backpack? Finding out what stores sell that backpack. Even if he bought it in cash, perhaps they could narrow down when it was bought and they would find some surveillance video to show that person. So, you know, that video is really key right now in terms of this investigation. But listen, it is, you know, 11 days now. And really, that's pretty much all they got, as far as we know.
And in terms of that 11 days, you've been watching a lot of this on TV like the rest of us. I know you were here with us in the studio last night. Our colleague Ed Lavandera has been out there. It's your first day out there. I'm curious how it's different on the ground, seeing it up close and personal versus the rest of us who have been watching this on TV.
Yeah, you know, one thing I was asking myself over the past few days is like, how could somebody drive into a neighborhood and kidnap an 84-year-old lady without anybody noticing? Now that I'm here, I understand why. Obviously, we've got TV lights up. Without these TV lights, this neighborhood is dark, black at night. There are no street lights. All of the houses are kind of behind undergrowth. You can easily see how neighbors wouldn't see a thing, particularly at that time in the morning. You know, there's undergrowth between all these houses, and as I say, no lights. This is a very, it's not remote, it's a subdivision, but there's not a lot of light, and there are big gaps between the homes. So now I understand how this could have happened, how somebody could have driven into this neighborhood and taken Nancy Guthrie without any of her neighbors realizing. Alex?
And that's one of the reasons why people love living in a neighborhood like that, is that they can see the stars, which you couldn't see in a place like Los Angeles. But then the danger of that is what we are seeing right now as well. Nick Watt reporting for us from Tucson. Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Joining me now live is CNN law enforcement contributor and retired FBI supervisory special agent Steve Moore. Steve, welcome back to The Story Is. We've been talking every night about this case. You say it's significant that what Nick just said, that they're still out there after dark working this thing.
Yeah, because I mean, I see them going back to Annie's house and Nancy's house and things like this. And I wonder in the back of my mind, is it just because you've got 40 or 50 evidence response people sitting around in hotels and you want to give them something to do? But if they're running 2 shifts on this, there is something they're looking for. Somebody has a theory of this crime and how it was committed.
When we talked last night, it seemed like everything was moving in the right direction. They got the video out, the Bitcoin letter, they seemed like they had somebody that they were interested in. And then today kind of felt like there wasn't as much activity.
Right.
What does that do to the morale of the investigators out there?
That's going to depend on how much credibility they gave to that lead last night, where they picked up the individual down in Rio Rico, I believe. I suspect that there wasn't a lot of energy behind that one, because what that was a tip that that Nancy was going in and out of this house. They ran the tip. They looked at the guy who lived at that house and said, could be, but I don't think they had anything else. I don't think he was on their radar. So you can't ignore that. But if you notice, the FBI didn't send a whole troop of agents down there.
Yeah. When we've seen these sort of things end when they really get their guy, it is amazing the amount of people. I remember being in Boston when they finally got the Boston Marathon bombers.
Oh, yeah.
And just seeing the cavalry of law enforcement when they finally got their guy.
Exactly.
That was not what we were seeing last night.
No.
So you mentioned Annie's house. They keep going back to Annie's house. A reminder that Annie is where Nancy Guthrie had dinner with her the night before she disappeared.
Right.
But why so much focus there? What do you read into that?
Somebody's got a theory of the crime that involves that house. There is no investigative reason that, based on the information that I see out there right now, indicates that they should still be looking at Annie's house. That's not the crime scene, according to every bit of evidence that we have. So I have to go back to the fact that they have something else. And part of that something else is they probably have cell phone tracks. They probably have all sorts of data points that they're researching right now based on those cell phones. There's something that gives them a suspicion that something was going on outside of Annie's house.
Today, Aaron Burnett talked with Harvey Levin of TMZ about this new letter that Harvey received with a very interesting demand. Watch this.
Okay.
The letter essentially says, I've tried to get in touch with Savannah's brother and sister to no avail. And they sent it to us then, and they said, if they want to get the name of the individual who is involved in this kidnapping, send the Bitcoin, give us a Bitcoin through this address. And they say time is more than relevant. That's the way it ends. Time is more than relevant. We have sent this on to the FBI and to the Sheriff's Department, and that's all we have heard.
Does that sound like BS to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty succinct way of saying it. I think somebody else has now got them a wire fraud case going, and they'll be easy to find, probably, like the last one was. You know, the FBI has a $50,000 reward. If you know the name of the person, why don't you just go get it from the FBI instead of committing wire fraud and extortion?
Simply put. Steve Moore, thank you for your insight night after night. It's been really, really helpful.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We want to remind people, if anybody's got any information, we're going to keep putting this number up there. This is the Pima County Sheriff's Department phone number on your screen, 520-351-4900, or you can contact the FBI directly, either via.
And we do have breaking news tonight as investigators are sweeping the area around Nancy Guthrie's home this evening and may have found a potential clue in their search on its 11th day. The New York Post reports tonight that as officials were scouring the roadside less than 2 miles from where Nancy Guthrie lives, they recovered a black glove that you can see here. Obviously, that picture immediately caught everyone's attention, given the footage that was released by the FBI shows the armed individual who approached Guthrie's home and her front door wearing these dark gloves, as you can see here. Right now, what we still don't know as we come on air tonight is whether or not authorities in Arizona believe that is the same glove that was being worn by the person in that doorbell camera footage.